Wisdom Walking with the HATMAN with Harvey and Teddy. Had a conversation this week and I needed a phone number for some tradesman or something, and this person gave me the phone number and went 0776 5000, and I'm like, that's a bit odd. And then I remembered my mobile number and I go 0777, and I'm like, and it ends in 80. But of course the 0 is 0 but not O. And I wondered, why did we say that? As a matter of course, so I think grammatically speaking it's wrong, but we all know what it means, don't we? So it's okay. But the first time I've ever noticed it. On the subject of phone numbers, there's only one number other than mine that I know. And that's my best mate Collins. He's had the same number, must be, well, he's 86 now. Must have had it like 30 years at least. So I need to be pressing those digits with an 07 to begin as opposed to 07. But I want to talk to you today. The weather is dropping and the clouds are gone today. It's been very heavy with rain, like torrential stuff here. But today we got pink clouds, well, purple clouds really. But the temperature feels like spring. And it took me back to when I was a kid growing up with my mum. I seem to be talking about her quite a bit these days. Every spring, I mean, she wasn't very domesticated. She didn't cook very much, but always cooked her Christmas lunch. And once in a blue moon, she'd cook her fish and egg pie. Apart from that, she never did. So I think my dad did it, or we just starved. So I think my dad did a lot of the cooking. But she I don't remember me swinging a Hoover around. But the house was always clean. Perhaps she did these things when we'd all gone to bed. Who knows? But when it came to spring, she'd do a spring clean and it would start with the books. My God, my household, as a child growing up, my mum and dad, they must have had thousands of books. They had hardbacks, shortbacks, longbacks, whatever they're called, but they had them all. And every spring, she'd announce, "Oh, spring clean today," and it was, oh God, because we knew what would happen. All the books would come off one by one, off the shelves. She would bang them together, dust would go flying. She'd open them up, flick the pages, just checking to see if anything had been left in there or any notes. She'd have a cursory review of what was on the back in terms of what the book was about, and then she'd polish the shelf that the book had finished, and then she'd move to the next 2 or 3 and smack those together and repeated the process. All the while she would be stacking up a pile of books, either on a chair, a table, the floor, windowsills, wherever she could lay them, the books were laid. Now, with the books and in this massive project of spring cleaning, it took me a while to work out what my mum was doing was actually sourcing a book to read. She'd read them all before, but it would all be going extremely well. The pots of tea would be going, and Mickey and Griff would be playing on the record player, and she'd be, or even a little bit of Matt Monro or John Williams, stuff like that. And then she'd stop. And the reason she stopped, she had a pot of tea, a cup and saucer, a packet of cigarettes, and she'd sit down and she'd start to read. And then my dad would come home and he'd go, "Oh, for God's sakes, Mary, what's going on?" She goes, "Oh, I'm just reading this one." And everything stopped until she finished the book. And she'd repeat the process again and again and again. She told me, "You've got to read, Michael, you've got to read." And she did, and she introduced me to Reader's Digest books, and they had the concise novels. So these where you'd have a blockbuster thing by, I don't know, is it Jack Higgins? And another author, there'd be 3 books in one, and it was an abridged version. So basically it was a shortcut. And one time at English, at school, Peter Pegnall, he asked us to read a certain book, and I said, oh, I've actually read it, sir. And he said, okay, tell me all about it. So I told him all about it. And then he asked me about a character in there. And I had no recollection. And he said, read the book again and come back to me and tell me what you think about him. So I did, and went back to the Reader's Digest Concise, and it wasn't there. And then he asked me to bring the book in later that week, and I did. And he said, oh, now the thing is, he said, some books have all the information. Some of them only have a few bits of information. And depending on what you want to get out of a book, you can read one or the other, but it's always best to read the full version. Take a shortcut if you want, but you might miss the opportunity for a decent conversation. So thank you to Peter. I did continue to read the concise books, because I wanted an understanding of what was going on. If I liked it, I would then read the big book. But my mum, she'd always beat these books. She never finished her spring clean until about the end of November, beginning of December, when she said, oh my God, look at this house. It's nearly Christmas. We need to tidy up. And then we all had to pick up these books and put them back upon the shelves from whence they came. Sometimes she did them in alphabetical order. Sometimes she did them by genre. But she had her own filing system. So the Dowie Index, the Mary Index is what she had. So that was quite fun. So fast forward to recent times, and I'm having a conversation, another one, with Lady Trussington Smythe, and she said every book has a story. And I went, well, yeah, obviously. But the more I thought about it, the more it has. Yeah, of course, there are the words in the passage, but the thing with a book, you don't know who's held that book before. You don't know who's read the book. You don't know how far they got. You might be able to tell, some of the readers had turned down the top corner of the page so they can remember where it was? Or were they, like me as a kid, I would draw and write things on the side and the beginning, like my own foreword, about what the book was about. But the people who got the books, if you go to a charity shop and there are books in there, I like going in there and I look at the books and I flick the pages open, and sometimes you see some words, maybe from a mother or a father to a son or a daughter, and it's to Hannah, lots of love, Mary, on your 18th birthday, love and kisses, mum, or Nan or something. So that book then had its own story. That book was then picked up by somebody and chosen by somebody as a particular present for somebody else. And the more I hear about this, every book has its own story. It's so blooming right. We've got the obvious one about what's actually typed in, but what's behind it? We don't know the people who picked up those books before us. Were they happy? Were they sad? Were they morose? Were they mournful? Were they sorrowful? Were they ecstatic? Were they gleeful? And when they finished the book, you know that moment when you finish the book, the last word, it's like the end, turn the page quickly, it's an epilogue. The feelings at the end of a book, the feelings and the emotions during the book, the story, the novel, whatever it might be, every book does indeed have a story. Maybe these podcasts, they've got a story, but I think the real magic is what's going on away from these words, what's going on away from this video, and what might be happening afterwards. Maybe you'll have a life full of concise... Teddy is now lying in a puddle. Come on, Teddy. Teddy, yep. Maybe we'll have a book of a story of concise novels. Maybe we'll then go and look at the big ones. Maybe we don't even know about little ones, short abridged versions. Maybe we say 0. Maybe we don't even say, oh, hang on, got knotted up. Maybe we don't need to say 07 because all mobile numbers in the UK are 07. Just a little quiz about habits and how easy they are to break. You know your mobile number. Just say it out loud to yourself. Okay, now say it again in pairs. Just try and do it in pairs. It's a little bit difficult, isn't it? The Anton B books in Windsor taught me how to read. But that was one way of learning. I don't know how I would learn to read now, because the Anton B books probably aren't used. It's probably all on an iPad. So, changes, books. Christmas is not far away. It smells like spring. Are you a concise person? Are you a full book version? And do you give consideration to the books, whatever they are, about the stories they have? Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow I'm off to Yorkshire. Going to go to the land where the castle was. The castle is gone, but I'll be up there and I'll be rummaging for some books along the way. There's an outdoor library there, so I'll dig in there. Okay. Thanks for listening. HATMAN out.